And a good evening. And all I can say is I hope it works. That's the biggest thing, because I'm not sure if it's going to. But we're going to pretend like it is going to work and just see what happens from here. Glad to have you along.
Sounds pretty good so far.
We're on the air. We didn't get that accomplished last week.
Glad to be back in the saddle again, as they say.
I don't have any text. Let's see what Facebook looks like. We pulled this off on Saturday, so I'm guessing we can do it again.
Okay.
We'll see. Got some great guests lined up for you tonight. Coach Sosha, he is the new head coach at Lenore-Ryan, and he's going to join us about 6:15. Scott Fowler, Charlotte Observer, he will join us as well about 6:45. And if you didn't see the Super Bowl, that's why I'm yawning now, because I stayed up way too late to watch all of it. Look at there. We're actually on.
All right.
That's positive.
All right. Give yourself a raise.
That'd be good. Twice and nothing's what? Nothing?
I think I've heard that before.
Okay.
You're right.
Okay.
I'm surprised you stayed up for the whole game.
I did. And I didn't even take a nap yesterday afternoon, but I stayed up anyway all day to watch it, and I think I may have napped just a little bit, maybe toward the end of the first half.
Yeah, that first half was not the most enjoyable part of the football game. It was kind of dull and boring.
Mm-hmm.
And it had Kansas City not kicked that field goal late, they would have been the first team in the NFL history not to score in the first half of a Super Bowl. I think that's what it was. No team that has been shut out in the Super Bowl
has ever come back and won
in the first half has ever come back and won.
Well, Andy used all that he had in the first half, time-wise. Scored very, very, very late.
He did.
And then the other side of it was he did the same thing in overtime.
He did. 13-play drive, won the game for them. And you got to be kicking yourself. If that's going to be the question. It's one of several questions. Why didn't Shanahan defer in the
I did hear the
overtime?
Answer to that one. Because the way they were looking at it, they felt good with their defense.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to give the defense a little rest, and they felt good with the defense. They felt like worst-case scenario is they would both get a field goal, and then they could come down and score the winning field goal to win the game.
Yeah.
That's what they thought.
But you just gave up points in regulation because you couldn't run the ball on back-to-back downs.
Mm-hmm.
You just gave up points to Patrick Mahomes, and you're going to put the ball in his hands with a chance to win a Super Bowl.
2 minutes was too much.
Yeah. If they'd have made a first down, they'd have salted the game away. 2nd and 5, they ran.
Well, the other thing, to me, the big key was the missed extra point.
Yeah, that was big.
That was a point. It wouldn't have been tied.
Yeah.
It would have been 1 point different. The other one that you really can't blame anybody about is the punt where it hit the player.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's very unfortunate.
And to me, I was pissed at Ray because I remember those days when he was at Clemson. He would fumble kicks and punts.
Yeah, and he went with the Panthers, and he was with the Steelers.
And
for
then
a while.
But it wasn't him.
No, it was not.
It was not him.
But you got the best offensive player in the league on your side. Mm-hmm. He just gains 5 yards. It's 2nd and 5, 2:30 maybe before the 2-minute warning. You got a 3-point lead. Why not run in back-to-back plays and force Kansas City to take those 2 timeouts? Then you get the first. You hope you get two. You get 2 attempts to get 5 yards. You get a first down. You got the best running back on the planet on your team.
Well,
you get the first down. 2-minute warning. You can run out the clock.
Go back to the Ravens. They ran the ball 6 times. They had dominated the offensive side.
I don't get it. This is what I'm getting sick and tired of. I'm getting sick and tired of this and looking at the analytics BS. You got to see it out there. We're knocking them off the ball. Give it to the guy. Just gain 5 yards.
Did you feel like San Francisco controlled the line of scrimmage on both sides?
Yeah, absolutely.
I picked it 28
the fourth quarter.
On Saturday. I picked it at 28-24 San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what I thought it would be. I know I think Keever picked it. He thought both teams would get into the 30s.
No,
I didn't think it'd be that high scoring. I thought both defenses were too good for that. And then what does it say about Spagnuolo? And J-Mac. I had to think of his name. J-Mac on Cowherd. He says, why aren't people knocking his door down to be a head coach? Because he failed as a head coach.
Twice.
Right. Some people are just made to be coordinators.
And maybe he knows his limitations, and he doesn't want to be a head coach anymore. And he and Andy Reid know each other back from their days in Philly. They just like the combination. Maybe
Is Andy back?
I think so. I think it's too hard to say no when you're going for first ever team in the modern Super Bowl era to win 3 straight. I think you try it. You run it back for one more year.
If they had lost, would he have called it a career?
I would say that would be the more likely scenario. And we would be talking about that, and we'd be talking about how their tight end bumped the coach and almost knocked him over.
Is Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes the GOAT or Belichick and Brady?
Right now, Belichick and Brady, but it is trending with Mahomes right now. With what he has done in a short period of time. What, 4 or 5?
A lot of folks say that there's really good odds that those two teams will be back next year for the Super Bowl.
Possibly.
I think one more year at most before the Chargers become the top team in the AFC.
They got some major problems with their salary cap. They're like $50 million over. So they're going to have to get rid of some of their high-priced, really good players.
Matt Hodge said Chris Jones showed why he deserved a contract, saved 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And he said the boys in the trenches on both teams were fun to watch.
It was.
I thought it was a very physical game.
It was.
I thought it was got a little chippy at times, but did you notice how many officials were on the field with jackets on?
Yeah, that was my question. Is that something they instituted just for the Super Bowl? Anytime there were some shenanigans going on, you saw these guys rush out onto the field with the black jackets.
And they had the official,
Yeah,
and Matt, that was a good point. Matt said refs let them play. Well, in the first half, especially early, a lot of flags, a lot of petty flags, I thought. And then since the game wore on, they kind of let them play.
So San Francisco's touchdown, the one with the wide receiver throwing the pass for the touchdown, their center was 20 yards downfield. He was 15 maybe.
Everybody said that.
15 yards downfield. I'm screaming.
That's not reviewable.
Well, still, how can 6 officials miss that?
Lincoln says, good evening, Lincoln. He says those are substitute officials in case somebody goes down, gets hurt. They've got them.
Well, they were doing more than substitute officiating. They were.
Well, it looked like they had extra duty. And, here's the thing. I would rather have that before somebody does something stupid and gets tossed out of a game in a game of that magnitude.
Agreed. Absolutely.
I liked it. I didn't have a problem with it myself.
No, I didn't either.
Yeah.
I thought it was a good idea. Maybe they'll do something like that in the regular season instead of going for you got some of the coaches that want to look at replays. Instead of you waiting on New York way back, they have somebody up in the booth at each game. They can certainly afford to have an official up in the booth, maybe even to signal down to official, hey, you missed this call. Hey, go. We're going to take a look at it. That kind of thing.
That's pretty good. Matt said, I always wonder after flags at the start and all the officials on the sidelines, does New York call and say, hey, let them play? You'll never know about that side of it. I think a lot of people were surprised, in overtime, there's no coach's challenge. And all reviews, it's like 2-minute reviews. Everything's reviewed. That nothing was reviewed in overtime. They talk like there might have been a play or two that could have been reviewed, but
what they needed to review in overtime is why did San Francisco pass up the opportunity instead of getting the ball first? Why didn't they just play defense first?
Most times there were very few times when I elected to take the ball when I was coaching.
Yeah.
I wanted to defer.
And again, you got one of the greatest quarterbacks on the other sideline. Mm-hmm. You're going to put the ball in his hands with a chance to win it?
I want to know what I've got to go do instead of get out there and see what I can do. Now, I told you before we went on the air that the story that I was told that I heard today was, and this came from Shanahan, that their thinking was we feel like we can hold them to a field goal and we feel like we can at least get a field goal. So when we go for that third time with the ball, all we have to do is score instead of the other way around.
That's why he's 0-3 in the Super Bowl.
Okay. I'm not.
And again, you're going up against the greatest over there.
Jack Huss said the officials were there last week. One was always near the head coach, making sure he knew what penalty was for.
Yeah, I saw that.
And they didn't have to interrupt play to do that.
I mean, it's a great
because
idea.
the officials now, they've got the earpieces. They all got the earpieces, and they talk to each other.
Yeah.
Matt said, I don't see on Super Bowl week you don't know the rules. I thought Kyle should have never tried the field goal. You know, sometimes it's easy to second guess on Monday.
I just think
how many times did it take his daddy to get a Super Bowl? Was that all Dan Reeves?
Yeah, it was Dan Reeves.
Okay.
I believe so. I just think when you got the ball and you got the lead and you got the best running back on the planet, you feed him until they stop him, and they didn't.
Right.
They want to get cute and throw the ball in the flat and dink and dunk. No, that doesn't work. Not when the game, not in the Super Bowl. The game of the year's on the line.
The other thing, as the game wore on, it seemed like Shanahan put more on Purdy to go down the field instead of kind of the dink and dunk thing. I don't know. I thought it was a good ball game.
It was a good ball game from the third quarter on.
Mm-hmm.
First half was awful. Yeah, I mean, it was good.
And we haven't even talked about it. This year was a much better year for commercials. A lot of big-name stars in commercials.
Yeah.
Dan Marino was in 2 of them. One about almost a champion or something was great.
Michelob Ultra. He was in that one.
That one, and they had who's the actress? She almost won an Oscar twice.
Almost won an Oscar twice.
Marino, T.O.
I missed that one. I didn't see it.
Oh, that was a good one. That was a good one.
And then I like the one with Arnold.
Yeah, I didn't understand it, but I mean,
it was the way his tone of voice.
And then some of them were just.
They were a little wacky.
That's correct. Let me take a break. We come back. Coach Sosa will join us from Lenore Ryan. We'll talk a little Lenore Ryan football as they've got a brand new football coach. Back in a moment.
Whether it's a sit-down meal or a call-in for the drive-thru, Brookwood Cafe and Catering is the answer. A variety of meats, vegetables, and desserts cooked daily, or a hot sandwich from the grill, they have what you're looking for to satisfy your taste buds. If you need catering from 5 to 500, Brookwood has you covered as well. Stop by Brookwood Cafe and Catering at 202 Providence Mill Road in Maiden. Don't forget breakfast daily till 11 a.m. Open Tuesday 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., Wednesday through Saturday 6 a.m. till 8 p.m., and Sunday from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Call 828-428-8944 to place your order today.
If you ask around, you'll find Burke Mortuary has a reputation for excellence and commitment to value. They've built a reputation of trust for more than 35 years. Burke Mortuary is proud to offer personal attention, meaningful tributes, and the area's most affordable prices. They're also proud to offer you beautiful, state-of-the-art facilities. It's the perfect place to honor your loved one. So when choosing a funeral home, the choice is easy. Choose Burke Mortuary with locations in Maiden and Newton.
Covenant Church began as a vision of just over 100 people in 1984. Since then, Covenant Church has grown and currently located at 2168 Gastonia Highway in Lincoln. The Sunday schedule includes early morning worship at 8:30, Sunday school at 9:45, and morning worship at 10:45. Their ministries extend beyond Sunday. Visit their website at www.covenantchurch.church to see all they have to offer, and better yet, stop by and see for yourself. Covenant Church may be just what you're looking for a new church home. First Federal Savings Bank has been serving Lincoln County since 1940. And as it has been from the beginning, customer service is a priority to First Federal Savings Bank. They want to get to know you by name. First Federal Savings Bank has the convenience, the products, and the services that the larger banks have, but with hometown people that you see throughout your community. Stop in and visit one of their 4 convenient locations and see what First Federal Savings Bank has to offer you. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender.
Untangling your headphones, finding the right remote, saying goodbye to your favorite shirt that hasn't fit in 10 years. Why are simple things sometimes so complicated? Thankfully, with Auto Owners, insurance doesn't have to be one of them. Auto Owners works with independent agents who live in your community and answer when you call, so you can worry about more important things, like finding a new favorite shirt. That's simple human sense.
Call Mooney Insurance in Maiden or East Lincoln Insurance in Denver or visit mooneyinsurance.com. Have you thought about when you would like to retire? One of your major assets is planning for retirement is time, and you lose a little of it each day. The longer you wait to start accumulating capital for retirement, the harder it's going to be. How should you plan for retirement? Start by calculating approximately how much capital you will need at retirement, then estimate how much you will have to put away each year. Finally, carefully choose the investments in which you will invest. Stifel Nicholas can assist you. Call Ford Rembert today at 828-624-7300. Stifel Nicholas, member SIPC, and the New York Stock Exchange. And welcome back. Glad to have you here on a Monday night. Rainy. I heard was the rain picking up when you came in?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I thought it was. It seemed like it was with me too. We'll go straight to our guest line. We're going to bring on the 24th head coach of Lenoir-Rhyne University College when we were there, Juju, back in the day, Coach Doug Sosha. Coach, thanks for joining us tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you, Juju.
Yeah, one of the things, Coach, that we kind of were interested in a little bit. What was it about Lenoir-Rhyne that made you want to make a move to come to Hickory?
Yeah, I think if you would have talked to me about a month ago, I would have said, obviously, from the outside looking in, they've been really good academically. There's a really good recruiting footprint here. They just competed and got to the Final Four in football, and they've been highly competitive, and obviously, and then the academic excellence, and then. Fast forward a couple days, and I have a chance to meet with Kim Pate, President Witt, and they absolutely blew my mind, just talking about the tradition and their vision and their goals and expectations, and then learning more and more about Hickory. And now fast forward to right now, I've been absolutely blown away by the people in this community, the alumni, and the support, and the meeting this football team, and then everyone on campus that I get to work with, and it's been tremendous. So, this place is great.
One of the things that Lenoir-Rhyne, when it comes to football, have kind of risen a little bit as far as from a national standpoint on what was accomplished with both Coach Cronick and Coach Jacobs. And it has become, it does have a different feel to it. It's always been highly supported by the community. So when you came in, I think you're exactly right. It didn't take you very long to figure out there really is a push behind this program.
Yeah, there's a great presence. And when I came in and interviewed, and then you get blown away by the facilities, and I interviewed in the press box, and then got a chance to tour the facility and see the community, and those are really nice things. But again, I think for me, you're going to hear me say this, every time you talk to me, it's always going to be about the people, having the right people in the building, and people plus a process equals winning, and the people here have been tremendous.
Hey, Coach, this is Juju. Tell us about your first orders of business. What have you been doing since you've been hired over, about a little over a couple of weeks?
Yeah, so it's been about 2 weeks, and my first thing was get in this building, and I wanted to meet the football team. And that first night, we flew in around 4 o'clock, got on campus by about 5:15. We met with the team. I met with the seniors. I met with the leadership council, and then I met with every position group. And we had these note cards. So, obviously when you take a new job, and then all of a sudden you've got signing day, within 10 days of taking the job, there's there's that order of business. But for me, my priority has been this football team, getting in this building. Was able to put together a staff. There was a really some good guys that were in this building that I was able to retain. We really focused on, getting the staff together, finishing off this signing period, signing a good class, and then our commitment has been to this football team, just getting to know these guys, and then obviously putting together a staff of great men and character that'll be role models and mentor these guys that are in the building. But, the number one priority will always be the players that are in the building.
Coach, what was the message trying to recruit the kids to keep them here, keep the ones that are already on the roster, the message you told them? And I thought it was impressive that with your recruiting class, you were able to bring in, I guess, around 30 or so, and with recruits, most of them coming from the previous head coach. What's been the message that you've been telling these kids?
I really wanted them to, look back at, why did you come to LR? And they probably came to LR for the same reason I came to LR. There's really good academics. The people here are amazing. And then there's been some winning going on here. So I think that combination, I told the football team when I met them, I said, I came here for the same reason you came here. And someone in their recruiting process, intrigued them enough to choose this place. And, I challenged them to, get a chance to know me. I'm going to dive into their lives. I want to know what makes them tick. And then from a recruiting standpoint, we reached out to every one of the commits that were here from the previous staff, and they did a great job of recruiting. And then obviously there was a few additions that we had. And I said the same thing. I said, we did some FaceTimes. We did some Zooms. We did, some different phone calls with them. We did some school visits. We had some kids come over back and revisit unofficially just so they could get in front of us. So, the message has been, obviously, they chose this place for a reason, and I can guarantee you I chose it for the same reasons why they chose it.
You won a national championship at the NAIA level and now coaching at Division II. From some of the film that you've watched and what you know, what's the difference?
I think, from a football standpoint, an X and O standpoint, I think football, whether, you watched the Super Bowl last night and you watch college football and then high school football, there's a lot of similarities with the X's and O's and then how you're going to teach it and then, our twist to how we're going to do things. But certainly there is an upgrade in this level in NCAA Division II, and this is an elite Division II program. So this should be the best Division II, talented football team in the country. So certainly I think that's going to be a little bit different. But I think, between the bricks, between the white lines, it's going to be very similar.
Style of play, have you talked about that with some of the players? What will Bear fans know or see when they see you either at spring practice or when they kick it off in September?
Yeah, I think you're going to see a team playing with a lot of energy, a team playing with really good, obviously energy and effort to the football on defense. We're going to be an attacking style defense. We're going to change up the looks. We're going to try to make the quarterback really uncomfortable. And then offensively, we want to be able to present a lot of different, formations and motions. And the football has got to get into the playmaker's hands. And there's going to be a tempo element to it. There's going to be a slow it down element to it. And then the kicking game has to be special. We have to be explosive in our return game. We want to be aggressive in all of our other schemes, and we're going to play with great speed and technique. And it's going to be an exciting brand of football. And they've been really good here. And we're just going to tweak some of the things that more to our personality and basically my DNA as a football coach.
I think you mentioned it during your opening news conference that you had a 10-hour interview. Was that correct? And was it your wife that had a hunch before you did that this might be the place you were going to end up at?
Yeah, so we came in on a Wednesday, and I think I arrived on campus at about 12 o'clock noon time and went right at it. And then I think we finished at 10 p.m., had a chance to tour the facilities near the end. We did some dinner. We were really excited, and I just kind of, just said, let's just keep our emotions in check. My wife was so fired up about this. She spent time with President Witt's wife and Kim Page, and believe me, the excitement was there for me. But I told her, and you heard me in the press conference, I said, hey, they got to offer us this job before we can get really, really excited. But we were really jacked up to be here.
Coach, I think I'm sure for most fans that follow either local college football or Lenore Rhine football, probably were not familiar with your story. You were born in, I guess, in Buffalo or just outside of Buffalo, somewhere nearby. But you went to school out west. You went to school on the West Coast. You've taught and coached at a private school in Florida. You coached with the Buffalo Bills, the University of Buffalo, and you're coming from an NAIA school in South Florida. Tell us about your story. I mean, seems like you've experienced all different parts of the country geographically.
Yeah, I have, and I've been lucky. And I was born in Buffalo, and then my family made a decision. My dad retired from being a policeman, and we're going to move to Los Angeles, near some other family members, and did my high school and junior college out there, and then I went to college in Colorado, and then my path went back to Southern California, and then ironically, I went back to Buffalo, and then after that was done, ended up coming down here, or getting down in South Florida and coached at 2 different high schools, and then I spent 1 year at the Buffalo Bills in 2016, and then I got the Kaiser job. So I have had a wide variety of experience. I've seen football players coming out of the middle school, choosing a high school players that I was trying to get recruited to all different sorts of levels. I've coached junior college football, so I've seen that brand. I played Division II football, coached NAIA. I've seen players play at the highest level in the NFL. So I think my background really offers a unique amount of experience that I can relate to what these players are going through and what they're trying to achieve. But at the foundation of it all, I want this thing to be bigger than football. We're going to be very involved in the community. We're going to be very involved in its campus life. And obviously we're going to try to get these guys to be the best they can be academically and as students and graduate. And we want to win a championship as well.
I had some friends of mine, some of my sources tell me that you're a big history buff. Did you ever get a copy of the history of Lenoir-Rhyne football yet on your desk?
I have that in my Schaefer Hall dorm room right now.
Very
Every
good.
night I make a point to dive into that thing, and it's tremendous. I kept hearing about the book, and then I had asked Kim about the book, and about 10 minutes later it was delivered on my desk, and I appreciate that. But I'm going to make my way through it. It's amazing, the history and just everything that's gone into all the stories that have made this place so special.
What can you tell us about spring practice and or what's happening this spring? Is recruiting finished up? Are you going to go into the portal and do some shopping? What are some of the things that's on your shopping list, so to speak, in terms of your schedule in the next couple of months?
Yeah, absolutely. So right now, our guys are really working hard in the classroom and either focusing on their development in the weight room and on the field and doing some extra work. Spring football will start in about a month on March 15th. When it comes to recruiting, I don't think recruiting ever ends. My goal with the transfer portal is to keep our players out of the transfer portal. So I'm always focused about the guys in the building. If we have to use the portal to fill some needs, we will. But we're certainly trying to build this thing with the best possible student athletes from high school level, and so that'll continue. There's probably a few more spots that we've got to focus on, and we've got a really good recruiting coordinator in Nick Vagnone, and he's been really focused on just some of these key positions that we still have to hit. But I think that'll be ongoing throughout the spring, and it's exciting. We're going to put in a new system on offense, a new system on defense, and special teams, and I think everybody's in the building is excited about learning about what the terminology is going to look like, what the playbook looks like. So we've got a ton of work here in the next 90 days.
Have you made your way around Hickory yet, or have you gotten lost?
I've gotten lost several times. I'm starting to figure out.
Don't feel bad.
Which way's north, which way's south, and some of these streets are named interestingly. But it's been great. I spent some time this weekend driving around, and I went up towards the lake, and then I went around that, and then I went a little bit south, the direction on 40 towards Charlotte, and it's been great. I think we've as a staff we've hit probably 5 different restaurants, and it's been outstanding. And so getting out in Hickory, and we've been to Hickory High School, we've been to St. Stephen's High School, and so it's been good. But I think once we get more settled in, I'm going to probably commit 1 to 2 days to just driving around and just becoming more and more familiar with the different streets and the community itself.
I did notice that there is one connection with your staff to Lenoir-Rhyne, Nick Vagnone. his father was a teammate of mine at LR back in the 80s.
Is that right?
Yeah, and I think Nick's grandfather also went to Lenore Ryan, if I'm not mistaken, as well. So there is that connection. I tried to talk to him at the press conference. But, yeah, his dad was he transferred, I think, from Western Carolina, and he came to LR for maybe 1 or 1.5 years and was a teammate of mine back in, I think, 81 or 82, something like that. So there is that connection. And Nick is from Charlotte, and he went to Wingate, I believe, at some point in time.
Yes, he did. Yeah, Nick's been a great, he did such a good job for us. And then when this opportunity came up, it was such a no-brainer for him to join our staff, be our recruiting coordinator. He's very well connected. His dad was just on campus yesterday checking it out. They live in Cullowhee, but good people. And but Nick is, I'm thrilled to have him on our staff, and we're lucky, and he's going to do a great job for us recruiting.
Coach, we appreciate your time and joining us, and excited to see what transpires over the spring and especially next fall, and to get everybody out on the field and get things rolling. But I'm sure we'll be chatting with you again. And again, welcome to Lenore Ryan, welcome to Hickory. And if you can figure out the streets and the avenues, northeast, southwest, good luck with that. I've been here all of my life at 60 plus, and I still struggle with it. So you're not by yourself.
All right, I appreciate it, you guys. Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you so much.
Coach.
Thanks, Coach. We appreciate it. That's Coach Doug Sosha, and looks like he's kind of got his feet on the ground and ready to continue doing what he's doing.
Yeah, he's the first coach I know that is driving a Tesla. I know that. Drives a white Tesla. He was right behind me the other day. I didn't want to bring that up, but as he was driving around looking at the streets, he got right behind me, right over by Old Hampton Heights.
Figuring things out.
Yeah.
Let me take a quick break, and we'll chat for a few minutes, and Scott Fowler will join us here just briefly. Back in a moment.
Whether it's a sit-down meal or a call-in for the drive-thru, Brookwood Cafe and Catering is the answer. A variety of meats, vegetables, and desserts cooked daily, or a hot sandwich from the grill, they have what you're looking for to satisfy your taste buds. If you need catering from 5 to 500, Brookwood has you covered as well. Stop by Brookwood Cafe and Catering at 202 Providence Mill Road in Maiden. Don't forget breakfast daily till 11 a.m. Open Tuesday 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., Wednesday through Saturday 6 a.m. till 8 p.m., and Sunday from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Call 828-428-8944 to place your order today.
If you ask around, you'll find Burke Mortuary has a reputation for excellence and commitment to value. They've built a reputation of trust for more than 35 years. Burke Mortuary is proud to offer personal attention, meaningful tributes, and the area's most affordable prices. They're also proud to offer you beautiful, state-of-the-art facilities. It's the perfect place to honor your loved one. So when choosing a funeral home, the choice is easy. Choose Burke Mortuary with locations in Maiden and Newton.
Covenant Church began as a vision of just over 100 people in 1984. Since then, Covenant Church has grown and currently located at 2168 Gastonia Highway in Lincoln. The Sunday schedule includes early morning worship at 8:30, Sunday school at 9:45, and morning worship at 10:45. Their ministries extend beyond Sunday. Visit their website at www.covenantchurch.church to see all they have to offer, and better yet, stop by and see for yourself. Covenant Church may be just what you're looking for a new church home. First Federal Savings Bank has been serving Lincoln County since 1940. And as it has been from the beginning, customer service is a priority to First Federal Savings Bank. They want to get to know you by name. First Federal Savings Bank has the convenience, the products, and the services that the larger banks have, but with hometown people that you see throughout your community. Stop in and visit one of their 4 convenient locations and see what First Federal Savings Bank has to offer you. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender.
Untangling your headphones, finding the right remote, saying goodbye to your favorite shirt that hasn't fit in 10 years. Why are simple things sometimes so complicated? Thankfully, with Auto Owners, insurance doesn't have to be one of them. Auto Owners works with independent agents who live in your community and answer when you call, so you can worry about more important things, like finding a new favorite shirt. That's simple human sense.
Call Mooney Insurance in Maiden or East Lincoln Insurance in Denver, or visit mooneyinsurance.com. Have you thought about when you would like to retire? One of your major assets is planning for retirement is time, and you lose a little of it each day. The longer you wait to start accumulating capital for retirement, the harder it's going to be. How should you plan for retirement? Start by calculating approximately how much capital you will need at retirement, then estimate how much you will have to put away each year. Finally, carefully choose the investments in which you will invest. Stiefel Nicholas can assist you. Call Fort Rembert today at 828-624-7300. Stiefel Nicholas, member SIPC, and the New York Stock Exchange. And we're back. We appreciate Coach Sosha taking time to talk with us a little bit. He's enjoying the well-lit plush digs of a dorm room at Lenore.
Yeah, his wife living in South Florida. He's got 2 young kids, I believe, and they're both in elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm guessing they're going to play out the rest of the year, then move
makes
up
sense.
here.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Scott Fowler's going to join us here in just a short bit. I'm just glad that things kind of came together as quick as they did for Lenore Ryan with Mike Jacobs moving on. It wasn't a process that was drawn out, and you and I talked about this. I think everybody that has a position like that, whether it's a CEO of a company, a board of directors of a company looking for CEOs, there's a short list of candidates in a drawer somewhere.
Yeah.
That if all else fails, when something happens, this is the first list I'm going after to see if I can get this thing back under control quickly. And I think Lenore did a great job with that.
Yeah, they did do that. And even if you believe everything the president of LR said at the opening press conference, that Coach Jacobs, and he's talked about it before the few times he's been on with us, he has turned down some positions that weren't right. And they mentioned as well that he turned down Gardner-Webb and East Tennessee State. And it was getting late in the cycle type thing. And apparently he let them know that he was going for an interview with Mercer. And so it all happened very quickly, like January after Coach Cronick left to go to Navy to become the offensive coordinator. Mercer opened up at about January 8th, January 9th, about that time. So LR had about, when they found out, they had about 8 days. And I don't know if it was the names in the drawer, but they had a search firm. And I think that search firm is the one who targeted a certain amount of people. They had 150 people that 150 people that applied. They interviewed either by face-to-face or by Zoom about 30 to 40 people, and they selected out of that 5 people.
That's
and
a
they brought
lot
those
in that
5.
short period of time.
Yeah, and they brought those 5 on campus. And Coach Sosha was one of the 5. I don't know who the other 4 are. I'd love to find out someday, but that's water under the bridge. But yeah, they did it all in less than 2 weeks.
The other story that I was a little surprised about, I haven't had a chance to hammer anybody over this one, but Chip Kelly. When I saw the text, I can't tell you what I said on the text, what I called him, but and what I called Ryan Day, basically. Ryan Day is determined that he's going to do what he has to if he has to hire a staff of head coaches, and that is, if not the deepest pockets in college alumni associations. It's one of the deepest pockets at Ohio State.
Sure is.
But I understand why Chip Kelly did it, why he made the move. Didn't want to deal with it anymore. The surprising story that I'm getting to that came out of that, who the new head coach at UCLA is.
Have they named it already?
Yeah.
I do not. I have not followed that.
Been an assistant for 10 years, former Carolina Panther running back Jonathan Foster.
Okay.
He was a player at UCLA.
Yeah, he was.
And played in the Super Bowl with John Fox.
Not Foster. Not Jonathan Foster. You're talking about Jonathan Stewart.
Deshaun Foster.
Deshaun Foster.
Jonathan Stewart, who I was thinking. Deshaun Foster, I'm sorry. Yes. He said he was overwhelmed with the choice of the current players who believe in him as a connector and leader. The players went crazy upon hearing the news in a team meeting Monday morning. He'd worked under Cliff Kingsbury, Jim Mora, Chip Kelly, played in the Super Bowl with the Panthers under John Fox. UCLA sees him as a modern CEO coach who can identify and develop players. He's been there for 10 years on the staff as an assistant at UCLA and was a start at running back for UCLA.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome. I never knew whatever happened to him. to be honest with you.
Me either.
And the rumor was that Chip Kelly was going to become an offensive coordinator in the NFL.
Yeah.
Not
Seattle was one of the places that was rumored.
Washington was one.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen that way.
Well, wasn't Chip Kelly the coach and Ryan Day was the quarterback?
That's
It's
correct.
Some school that
That's correct.
he coached at?
That's correct.
So they have a friendship going all the way back. It's gone from coach and pupil now to coach and pupil. Or
I'm
coach and
sorry.
peer.
I'm not a Ryan Day fan. Just somebody I just, I don't like. I don't know what it is. Just me.
Have you been following the recruiting rankings for 2025?
Mm-mm.
Clemson's top 3 right now.
You can't win with just recruiting. They've done very little in the portal from what I've understood.
Yeah, they have done very
little.
little.
We'll see. And I think, this is just a personal opinion, I think if they're not up in there at least in the top 10 at the end of the season, there'll be some pressure on Dabo.
He's already made some changes, right, to his staff.
He makes changes all the way, but he doesn't change his philosophy with what college football is today. I said this before. I think it's why Roy Williams got out.
Mm-hmm.
It's why Chip Kelly got out. It's why Roy Williams got out. I think these guys don't want to play the game, and especially in football, you not only have to recruit, you have to recruit your own kids that are on the team to stay.
They're not only getting out, they're going into the NFL. A lot of these coaches to be coordinators or assistant coaches or whatever.
Because they
it
just
is.
want to coach. They don't want to play the other games.
Yeah. And I think that's very true about even Coach Cronick.
Mm-hmm.
I think he probably got at the FCS level. You're getting poached. Players are moving up. He had lost his defensive coordinator, his offensive coordinator, and so the opportunity to go just coach and call plays, which is his strength at the Naval Academy. Don't have to worry about discipline. Don't have to worry about any of these.
Don't worry about discipline, that's for sure.
Or people transferring. I don't think so. So double your salary to go from $400,000 or $300,000 to $800 or $825. I think is what I saw.
Ask you this question:
No brainer.
Chip Kelly made this move. Could Chip Kelly have made this move before UCLA made a move? Because he was 35-34 in 6 seasons.
I think he made the move knowing that UCLA is probably hurting financially too.
And I've heard the same thing with that. Yep.
That was the reason why that they went going into the Big Ten. They needed the money. They needed the cash to come in flowing.
And it says that Kelly had interviewed for multiple coordinator jobs in the cycle, including Seattle. And it said that Kelly coached Day in college at New Hampshire. And Day worked for Kelly in the NFL with the Philadelphia Eagles and the San Francisco 49ers.
And maybe Chip Kelly thought, this head coaching stuff's a little overrated. I just want to call plays.
How old's Chip Kelly?
Mid-50s, 52, 51. I'm guessing.
Maybe you don't want that aggravation anymore.
Maybe.
But according to this article, this is on ESPN, $4 million pay cut. Ohio State had to pay 1.5 buyout for Kelly, and says they had a 3-year deal. Terms are not disclosed, but Kelly is expected to take a pay cut of more than $4 million with the move, as he was making nearly $6 million at UCLA.
Peace of mind, man. Sometimes it's not always about the money.
Yeah,
a lot of times it is. Sometimes it's not.
I agree. And I just thought it was, it was obvious he was trying to get out based on the other thing. He's 60.
Oh, wow. He's okay.
So it's time. He doesn't want to play anymore, I guess. Let me try to see if I can get in touch with Scott.
Okay. So you're gonna do it right now, no break, go straight through. Okay. So coming up is Scott Fowler, the longtime columnist, sports writer with the Charlotte Observer, and Scott's got a new book out. He does a podcast calling Sports Legends of the Carolinas. He's interviewed some really fascinating people in the Carolinas and wanted to get him on to talk about that, talk about everything that's going on with the Panthers. And he's had a little bit of a running feud between the owner, David Tepper, and also for a long period of time. So we're going to get him on to talk about what's happening with Charlotte sports. But more than anything, his podcast, I had a chance to listen to it. He's had Armani Edwards on. I heard Bill Polian a couple of times. And Scott Fowler joining us right now, Lanny.
We'll head to the guest line and bring Scott Fowler on. I've known Scott for a number of years, worked with him when we were down at ESPN 730 in Charlotte. And Scott's always got his pulse beat on the sports scene in Charlotte. And also one of those guys that's not afraid to ask the hard questions. Thanks for joining us, Scott.
Pleasure is all mine. Thank you guys for having me.
Sometimes when you ask the hard questions, they don't let you come back and ask the hard questions a second time, do they?
Sometimes you get, sometimes you don't get to ask the question the second time around. I got ignored at a Dave Tepper press conference earlier, a few months ago now. But, yeah, that happens sometimes.
That's pretty bad when they shut out the hometown guy. But, I'll be honest with you, Scott. When Tepper was first announced, I was really excited because of where he came from. He came from one of the most respected franchises as far as being stable and how they do things as a minority partner with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He came in as the richest owner in the league at that time, and I'm like, okay, here's kind of what we need. But he almost had Jerry Jones type tendencies to where nobody could do anything but him, and he had all the answers.
Yeah, he's not, made himself like the general manager or his son the general manager, whatever Jerry Jones has done exactly in Dallas. But he's certainly been involved, and it's a question as to exactly how much, but certainly, in my opinion, too much. I've written a number of times in the Charlotte Observer. I think he's got to step more into the background, and I think they maybe are going to try it that way this time, Lanny, because it hasn't worked the other way for 6 straight seasons. So I think he has hired a little bit different of a front office look to it. This maybe a couple more layers. So we're just going to have to see whether he's able to do that if they start, say, 0-5 or something.
Well, I like the Dan Morgan move. I think Dan has done a good job working his way up through the ranks, and I like the way they brought in a cap guru to kind of help them with that side of it. I like that Canal is a quarterback type coach. That was something that needs to be. If you're going to hold on to Bryce Young and see if he can develop into what you think he can. There was dissent and disagreement. I don't care what they say about whether they should take Bryce Young or they should have took C.J. Stroud. Between that with Frank Reich, I had no problems with that hire. But even with what he's built so far, if Tepper doesn't take a back seat, nothing's going to change.
Yeah, and you mentioned that, and that's true too, but also I think if they start winning, everyone will feel fondly toward Dave Tepper again. It just so much of it matters there, and I think Dan Morgan honestly is about to have a bigger 3 or 4 months than Dave Canales because they need some more players, and that's where he's going to come in because I like that hire too. I've known him for 20 plus years since he got drafted here, and he'll work very hard, but their judgment has not been great yet. And so Canales, I like his energy and enthusiasm and so on, but they do have to figure out Bryce Young, and they've got to figure him out by making him set up to succeed. I thought they were set up with Bryce was kind of set up to fail this year. That's not what they meant to do, but that's what ended up happening.
Hey, Scott, I wanted to ask you about your podcast, your Sports Legends of the Carolinas. What's the origin of that? How'd you get started with doing that?
Well, yeah, thanks for asking. Sports Legends of the Carolinas a little bit came out of COVID in that I got so frustrated. I like interviewing people in person. You always get better stories, and it's just a much more pleasant experience for everybody. And, of course, COVID knocked that out for a couple of years, and so when we could go back to that, I was like, you know what, I've got a lot of people's phone numbers. I'm going to start trying to go see all these people. And so that's kind of where we've been. We open season 3, opens, in fact, Wednesday, and our first guest is Richard Petty on the eve of Daytona. So we're real excited about Richard, and it's free. Of course, if you're a podcast person, you just go to Sports Legends of the Carolinas, and you can find it there. But it's also online at charlotteobserver.com if you're more into the reading part of things. So Richard was fantastic, 86 years old, and still going strong.
Which subject have you enjoyed the most? I heard Bill Polian and Jay Billis and Tom Burleson and Armani Edwards and their podcast. Which one have you enjoyed, or which ones?
Gosh, hard to pick. They're just they're all great in different ways. Armani was. I really enjoyed doing that for App State fans. I think that's one you really need to listen to because his stories about App State and also about what happened with the Panthers. A lot of those I really never heard before, but we've done 34 of these interviews now, and the first 33, in fact, are in a book called Sports Legends of the Carolinas. It's become popular enough we collected them in a book, and they're just all a lot of fun. Those guys, they're just. I pick people who are good people too, so I really like to enjoy, Jake Delhomme and Greg Olson and Thomas Davis. A lot of the Panthers, of course, I've had connections with over the years too. So it's been a lot of fun.
Were you surprised that Julius Peppers got in the Hall of Fame and/or Steve Smith did not?
Not particularly. I know a number of the voters on that. I'm not a voter, but I kind of know the way that room works. And the problem with Steve is there's a logjam in front of him of 3 receivers who really need to make it before Steve Smith does. And one did. Andre Johnson made it. But he still needs Reggie Wayne and Torrey Holt, the former great at NC State. They probably both need to get in, and then Steve will get into that final 15. He was in the final 25 this year, but not in the final 15. And Peppers' career was just so long, 17 years. He only missed 2 games in 17 years due to injuries. Ridiculous numbers. 4th best sacks all time. It stood out, I think, in a way that very few people's resumes do. So his first ballot selection, not a surprise. It is interesting what's going on with Steve Smith. I think he'll make it eventually, and it will be interesting to see what happens with Luke Kuechly, who's eligible next year and had a shorter career, but really burned brightly during that shorter time.
Were you surprised way back when the Panthers let Julius walk and he went to the Bears?
Yeah, sort of was. Peppers was the kind of guy you'd love to have had here for. He played 17 years. He ended up playing 10 here, 2 at the end and 8 at the beginning. And I mean, at that time though, here was the problem. They made an offer that would have made Peppers the highest-paid defensive player in the world. I mean, and he did not take it, and that was partly because Julius Peppers wanted to see something outside of North Carolina. He had played in state his entire life, high school, college, and pro, and he was ready to see a little more of the world. And so I think that's what happened as much as anything. And I think after he saw a bunch of the world, Chicago and Green Bay and various other places, and he was like, yeah, Carolina's pretty good, actually. I'm going to come back. And so he finished up here. So that was great because a lot of those bridges were repaired. He never burned them. I mean, always been a class guy, but that's what happened.
We're talking with Scott Fowler from the Charlotte Observer. Let me ask you about a story, well, 2 that broke today. Juju and I were talking about it before we gave you a call. Deshaun Foster named head coach at UCLA. I really didn't even know what had happened to him after he left. But all the things that I've read about him, he's had a pretty good career for coaching.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I gotta say, I knew he was on the West Coast as an assistant. I'm not sure I remembered if it was UCLA or USC. I knew he was in the coaching game, but this really was kind of a bolt out of the blue to me too. He wasn't a coordinator, so it wasn't like a natural, that'll be Deshaun Foster's job for sure. But I think it sounds like the players loved him. I mean, that part doesn't surprise me. He was very well liked in the Panthers locker room. There was a time where Deshaun Foster maybe should have been the starter here early in his career, but he was purposely sort of happy to be the second guy because, well, there was D'Angelo Williams and Stephen Davis that he shared the backfield with at different times. And he just was a real team guy. And so I'm sure he's that way as a coach, too. So, yeah, I mean, good for Deshaun Foster, but honestly, it surprised me.
Yeah, me too. The other question from a current topic, another one of the almost dumpster fires when it comes to professional sports in Charlotte. I read where Mitch Kupchak is moving out of the president role into an advisor role. Does that mean that the Hornets are going to kind of be shaking things up again?
Yes, it does. Mitch Kupchak, that's, he'll – and an advisory role, a consultant role is, that's a little iffy as to what that means exactly. But I can tell you what it does mean is he won't be the final decision maker anymore. And Mitch is, he's older and he's done it for a long time, and his contract was going to expire in June, so they're going ahead and announcing it now. But they're going to hire a new decision maker. These two new owners, Rick Schnall and Gabe Plotkin, who bought the team from Michael Jordan, and no one really knows who they are yet or what they are about. But I will say they love basketball. Like, they're guys who like to play pickup in the backyard type guys who just also happen to make a few billion, on hedge funds.
Mark Cuban kind of people?
Wouldn't that be nice? What's that?
Mark Cuban type of people that are that involved?
I mean, they're probably not as bombastic as Mark Cuban, but, yeah, a little bit like that. I mean, I don't think they're ever going to be on a TV show, and looking at people's inventions. Not like that. But I've been around them some now, not a ton. They're obviously going to put their own stamp on all this. I mean, they made a bunch of trades at the deadline, and they're obviously not real happy with the way it's going right now, and so they're trying to shake it up. So yeah, there's more to come there, but that was one of the first shoes to drop.
Hey, Scott, I hear that you're a pretty good tennis coach. Can you kind of fill us in on that? You're the head tennis coach at Lincoln Charter High School.
Yeah, that's right. That's my volunteer job. That's my thing for fun. I have coached the high school tennis team at Lincoln Charter for I think this might be my 12th year or something. A lot of fun. Love to be around the kids. I have 4 children of my own. 2 played on the team at different times, and they've both graduated long ago now. But at that point, they had lured me in, and I enjoyed it too much to leave the other ones. So I just keep doing it. So it's fun. Gets me out on the tennis court some too, which keeps me exercising a little bit.
So you haven't converted over to pickleball as you age?
No, I'm anti-pickleball. Yeah. I'm trying to stay away from it as long as I can, but I know that eventually I probably will have to. But I don't like the sound of a pickleball against a paddle, and the court's too small. I like a big court where you can run around and feel like you're getting a little more exercise anyway. But no, I'm kind of teasing. I mean, I know it's a great thing, getting a lot of people outdoors, and so it's cool. But I'll tell you what, also the hidden part of pickleball, a lot of injuries in pickleball. A lot of people getting hurt in pickleball. I know 3 or 4 myself. So you got to be, if you're playing pickleball, you still got to stretch and warm up and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't just let it all go and just be that weekend warrior. You got to put a little bit more into it, depending on how much how serious you want to take it. Scott, we appreciate your time as always.
Where can you get your book, Sports Legends of the Carolinas?
Yeah, probably the easiest way is online, which is sportslegendsbook.com. But Park Road Books in Charlotte and Main Street Books, I should say, in Davidson, both have signed copies if you're interested in that.
Oh, so they do have, because I had planned to go to the Park Road. That wasn't too long ago, and I wound up being out of town that weekend. You were down there for a book signing.
Yeah, that's right. We had Bob McKillop came with us, and Judy Rose, and it was very successful. But yes, we've left some there. We kind of keep them permanently stocked, and so yeah, Park Road Books has books signed by myself and the photographer of the book, who's did some just gorgeous pictures. It's kind of a coffee table book. It's not like a lot of reading involved. It's a lot of nostalgic photos and stuff. It's it's really a cool looking book, and I'll say that from the photo perspective. So yeah, we've signed everything that's in Park Road Books.
Yeah, I know that that's kind of what I've got up here now. I've been in my current location about 3.5 years, and it's kind of my man cave. Got a whole lot of collectibles, and I've got a few of those coffee table books. That's why I wanted to get in there and get one of those, because they're nice. They're nice things that attention getters and conversation starters is the way that I look at it, and I know that the work that you do is top notch. But we appreciate your time, Scott, as always, and I hope we can have you on again soon.
Well, thanks so much for having me, and y'all have a great night.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you, Scott.
That's Scott Fowler, Charlotte Observer. When we first started at ESPN 730, and we went out and did some, I went out, bottom line was a noon show, and once a week I would try to go on location. Scott joined me at Midtown Sundries.
Okay.
In Denver, down at 16 and 73. And we did a 1-hour show down there. And Scott was always great to work with us.
Was that called The Bottom Line, too?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The first, when I put ESPN on the air, it was Fox Sports 730, because ESPN was over on 610. And so we were Fox Sports, and the first local show that we put on was Bill Rosinski and I from 8 to 10, Monday through Friday. And the only reason we called it The Bottom Line and not the Bill Rosinski Show, because Bill was still doing golf and still doing play-by-play stuff, so he wanted to be able to keep his schedule where he could go out.
It wasn't his show. It was his
so there were other guys that I would bring in.
Kind of like this show.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just here. I run the board and hope that things work and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So,
No, I like Scott. He's not one of those.
I like Scott a lot.
Those interviewers that scream and yell.
Mm-mm. No, and it was funny.
Storyteller.
If you watch the little, how do I describe this? When he got shut out of the press conference because they wouldn't let him ask the questions, and he's in the front, right here. He's the Charlotte Observer reporter,
and he's not a very small guy.
No.
He's tall,
and that's why I had to bring that up, because they would not call on him. I mean, And
that's just so petty.
Yeah.
That is so petty.
It is. But that's why I had to do, because
billionaires being that petty.
It wasn't as if no one at the press conference knew who he was.
Yeah.
It's just they didn't want to take the questions that he was going to ask, and he's not afraid to do those. I mean, if he feels like there's questions that need to be asked and need to be answered that people want to know, then he doesn't have a problem stepping out there.
I agree.
But, no, great job. Great guest tonight. Thank you. You're the best.
Great job on the behind the scenes, getting us on the air.
Crap's just working. Yeah, I don't know why.
New equipment, right? New equipment.
Not happy with it. I'm not happy with it. It's not working the way I want it to. But I'll worry about that again later. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Appreciate it. You guys have a good evening. I think Mr. Rembert is back tomorrow. I saw him down the street today when I was coming through downtown Maiden. Have a good evening. We'll see you in the morning.